Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Isabella. If it's your first time here, welcome and hello. Thank you for hanging out with me today. So today is all about baking, how to, what is it, and what it's going to look like when it's done. Clearly this is it. Oh yeah, it's pretty in-depth explanation of what baking is and why you kind of do it. I had a lot of questions on what baking is, and I do have some younger people that watch me. I know that my little cousins watch me and they have no freaking clue what baking is. My mom had no idea what baking was, and I had a lot of questions on it, so I figured I would sit down and explain to you guys what baking is and why you should do it, where you should do it, stuff like that, all that good stuff. So if you guys want to know more about what baking is and how I got this look, then just keep on watching. And you want to get a concealer that's a little bit brightening, so when it's under your eyes, it's going to, basically that's the first thing that people are going to see. It's like right in the center of your face. You want the center of your face to be super brightening. So I'm just going to go in with the Too Faced Born This Way concealer, and I'm in the shade Nude. And I'm just going to apply some here and a little bit over here because I do need to clean up my eyeshadow. And obviously I already have my base down, I have a foundation on. I'm using the Milani Conceal and Perfect. I stole this from my mom. I loved it. I used it in my last video. So I'm going to use that today. And then obviously the same thing on this side. And then, like I mentioned, your whole center of your face, you want it to be bright. So you're going to go down your nose. This also is very beneficial if you're contouring your nose. And then right here. And your chin. If you have some breakouts on your chin, I wouldn't recommend highlighting there because you don't really want people to look directly right there, and it'll be more prominent. So if you because that's usually where I break out, is right on my chin. So if you break out on your chin, you don't want to highlight right there. Then you want to go in with a beauty blender, a damp sponge, anything like that. It doesn't have to be Beauty Blender brand, but you do want it to be nice and soft. And you want it to be damp, not too wet, so if you like squeeze it, nothing comes out, but you do want it to be damp. And you're just going to lightly press under the eye. You're not going to wipe or anything like that. You're just going to dab to blend it all in. And you want to make sure that you're looking up so you can get right in the creases underneath your eye. And when you're blending out on your forehead, I notice that when I do it, sometimes I go a little bit higher. That's okay because you're going to contour. So once you contour, that's just it's gonna blend all together, and it's gonna look okay. So after I do all that, I'm going to go in with a powder, and your powder I feel like is very important. So it's important to pick the right one. I love the RCMA. You guys hear me talk about this all the time. It looks like this. It was $12 and it's lasted me a really long time. I have another one upstairs. It depends on if you are dry under your eyes, or because I know that the Laura Mercier one was a little bit drying for me, so I don't usually like that one. And it's important that when you're picking, especially because you are baking, that you don't want to pick one that's going to leave a white cast under your eyes. And what a white cast is basically when you take a picture or someone takes a picture of you with the flash on, the first thing you're going to see is all white under here. It's just not going to look right, and it's just going to be just white, really bright white underneath your eyes, and you don't want it to look like that. So I'm going to go in with a damp beauty blender. This is a different one from what I blended out with, and this one's also damp. You want to just press it in there, and before I bake, I'm going to go under my eyes and I'm going to set them so nothing really moves around. And when I set them, you're just going to, all you do is just press that into the skin so it ends up blending together nicely. And you want to make sure you look up. And it's also important that your sponge isn't too wet, because if it is too wet, then once you apply it, you're going to notice patches. That happens to me sometimes, and I'm like, okay, my sponge is obviously way too wet. So you just want to make sure it's just damp. And you're just setting. Just like that. And then you're going to go back in. Just like that, and you're just going to leave that there for about 5 minutes. So usually I'll go and I'll do the rest of my face. And sometimes I'll even go down here and I'll bake my chin, because I noticed that with me and a lot of other people is that your chin makeup is what moves around the most, or it's the first thing to go with your makeup, because you're touching your face, you're putting your hand on your chin, you're doing all that kind of stuff. So this is just going to make sure that it does not move. Like, this is not going to budge. It's going to stay. It's going to stay, and everything's going to be great. So what baking really is, and this is so cool, I recently learned this and I was like amazed. So what baking really is literally, you're literally baking your face. So basically your under eyes can't breathe, and they're just basically like suffocated under there. And so with the powder on top, your body temperature is like baking, literally baking underneath your eyes. So everything is going to stay in place. You're going to wipe it away, and you're still going to see that it's super bright under your eyes, which is what you want. So I thought that was like so cool when I learned that. I was like, oh my god, no, it's like literally, you're literally baking your face. So now that this is baking and all setting into place, I don't normally bake up there. I don't know why, I just don't. So now I'm going to contour my cheeks, and I'm going to have a separate video on like strictly contouring and how to contour and the do's and the don'ts. So for now I'm just going to go in with a bronzer and bronze everything up. When I'm applying this, I just like to use a tapered brush, and I'll explain all of that in my next video. So I'm just going to go in with that and just bronze up my face. This is really natural, and it's not too harsh or too much. And this is what I said about bronzing up your forehead or contouring your forehead. So once you do that, like everything blends together, and it's not just like super light from my concealer. And I just like to use a really light hand. Sometimes I'll be going in too hard, and that's when it gets really harsh. You just want to use a really light hand. I noticed that when you're using a really light hand, it's easier to like hold the brush from the bottom and just lightly sweep on top of that. So now that I did that, I'm going to go back in with my baking, and I'm going to bake underneath. This is going to chisel out like your jaw, and it's going to have your contour be a lot more prominent, and that's what you want, and everything is just going to look nice and structured. Then while you wait, take a sip of your coffee. I'm also going to put a little bit of blush on, and I'm going to use my Tarteist Pro Glow and Blush Palette, and I'm going to use this shade, this middle shade right here. And these shades, like a lot comes off on your brush, so I like to tap a lot of the excess off so it's not really harsh and you're just like whoa in your face. And everybody is different with their blush. I see people say like don't put it on the apples of your cheeks, you look like a doll, you look like a clown. But that's where I like to focus it, like right here, and then I'll sweep it back. So a little here and then sweep it back. But it's really just whatever works for you and your face shape. So now it's time to wipe your baking off. And you could pick any brush that you like. This is the brush that I like. This is by Real Techniques. And this is the Expert Face brush. It's just like this. And I love this brush for wiping baking away. See, and you see that like it's still very prominent and bright under your eyes. Your contour looks a lot more chiseled. And I like to go in and just kind of tap it against my hand because it has a lot of powder on it, so you just want to try and get a little bit off. And then down your nose. And then I'll go on my forehead and I'll just kind of tap it up there because you didn't really set up there, so you're just going to kind of tap it up there, and that's not baking it or anything, it's just setting it in place. And everything looks really, really nice. But this is a really important step when you're baking. You always want to set your face, because if you do have a powder that does make it look a little bit cakey, this is going to kind of just set it and everything's going to look nice and dewy and hydrated. So I'm using the Maybelline Master Fix. I just like to make sure it dries. And if you have a setting spray that leaves a little bit of like water droplets, which I usually get them on my forehead, I just go in with a beauty blender and just tap over that. Not rub or anything like that, because then you're going to spread your makeup. So you just want to tap over that. And that's the end of this video. I hope that it was super helpful to you guys and that you guys followed along, and baking makes a lot more sense now. Just know that you bake, if you have a lot to do, you're going to be out all night or all day and you want everything to last, you got to see some important people, just keep this on. And that's what you got to do. You got to bake underneath your eyes. So I hope that makes a lot more sense for everybody now. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye, guys.